The old wooden bridge creaked beneath the feet of the young monk, Bankei Yotaku, as he made his way to the small hermitage where his master, Daigu, resided. The year was 1633, and the misty Japanese countryside was alive with the songs of birds and the gentle rustling of leaves. Bankei had been searching for answers to his deepest questions for many years, and his master's reputation as a wise and compassionate teacher had drawn him to this remote corner of the country. As he approached the hermitage, he noticed a small inscription etched into the stone above the doorway. "The unborn mind is not something to be attained, but rather something to be revealed." The scene unfolded like a delicate watercolor painting, with the soft morning light casting a warm glow over the entire landscape. Bankei's master, Daigu, was already waiting for him, sitting cross-legged on a cushion in the center of the room. The air was thick with the scent of incense, and the sound of a small stream babbled gently in the background. Bankei bowed deeply, his hands clasped together in a gesture of respect, and began to explain the reason for his visit. He had been plagued by doubts and uncertainties, unable to grasp the true nature of reality, and he hoped that his master could offer him some guidance. Daigu listened attentively, his eyes twinkling with wisdom, as Bankei poured out his heart, sharing his fears and his aspirations. As Bankei spoke, the atmosphere in the room grew heavier, like the air before a storm. Daigu's expression remained serene, but his eyes seemed to bore into the very soul of his young disciple. The silence between them was palpable, a living, breathing entity that pulsed with an otherworldly energy. It was as if the entire universe had converged on this single moment, and the fate of Bankei's spiritual journey hung precariously in the balance. And then, without warning, Daigu spoke, his voice like a gentle breeze on a summer's day. "The unborn mind is not something that can be taught, but rather something that can be revealed. It is the mind that lies beyond all dualities, all concepts, and all distinctions." Bankei's eyes widened in confusion, and he felt a surge of frustration rise up within him. He had been hoping for a clear and definitive answer, but instead, his master's words seemed to have only added to the mystery. The story of Bankei Yotaku and his master, Daigu, is a fascinating one, full of twists and turns that reveal the complexities of the human condition. Born in 1622, Bankei was a Japanese Zen master who lived during a time of great turmoil and upheaval. The country was still reeling from the aftermath of the Sengoku period, a time of civil war and social unrest that had lasted for over a century. It was against this backdrop of chaos and uncertainty that Bankei began his spiritual journey, seeking answers to the fundamental questions of existence. He was drawn to the teachings of Zen, with its emphasis on meditation and the attainment of enlightenment. And he spent many years studying under various masters, including Daigu. But despite his dedication and perseverance, Bankei found himself struggling to grasp the true nature of reality, and it was this sense of uncertainty that had led him to seek out his master's guidance. The concept of the unborn mind is a central theme in Bankei's teachings, and it is closely tied to the idea of suchness, or tathata, in Buddhist philosophy. According to Bankei, the unborn mind is the mind that lies beyond all dualities, all concepts, and all distinctions. It is the mind that is not born, and therefore it is not subject to the cycle of birth and death. This idea is closely related to the teachings of the Chinese Zen master, Huang Po, who wrote extensively on the nature of the mind and its relationship to reality. In his book, On the Transmission of Mind, Huang Po explains that the mind is not something that can be grasped or understood through intellectual concepts, but rather, it is something that can be directly experienced through meditation and contemplation. The historical context in which Bankei lived and taught is also important to understanding his philosophy. Japan was a country in transition, moving from a feudal society to a more modern, urbanized culture. The old certainties were being challenged, and people were looking for new ways to make sense of the world. It was against this backdrop that Bankei's teachings on the unborn mind found a receptive audience, and his emphasis on the importance of meditation and direct experience resonated with many people who were seeking a more authentic and meaningful way of living. As the Japanese Zen master Dogen Zenji wrote in his book, Shobogenzo, to study the Buddha way is to study the self. To study the self is to forget the self. To forget the self is to be enlightened by all things. The silence that followed Daigu's words was like a vast empty space, a chasm that seemed to swallow up all of Bankei's doubts and uncertainties. It was as if the very fabric of reality had been torn apart, revealing a hidden dimension that lay beyond the reach of words and concepts. Bankei felt himself being pulled into this void, a sense of weightlessness and freedom that was both exhilarating and terrifying. He was no longer sure of anything, not even his own existence, and yet, in this moment of utter uncertainty, he felt a deep sense of peace and clarity. It was as if he had finally found what he had been searching for all along, but it was not what he had expected. The unborn mind was not a thing, not a concept, not even a state of being. It was simply the absence of all things, the silence that lay at the heart of the universe. In this moment, Bankei was faced with a profound paradox, one that has been at the heart of Zen and Buddhist philosophy for centuries. How can we speak of the unborn mind when it is beyond all language and concepts? How can we grasp it when it is not a thing that can be grasped? The answer, of course, is that we cannot, and yet, it is in the very act of trying to grasp it that we may catch a glimpse of its true nature. As the Chinese Taoist master Zhuangzi wrote in his book, The Inner Chapters, the Tao does nothing, and yet nothing is left undone. If kings and lords can keep it, all things will transform spontaneously. The Tao, like the unborn mind, is a mystery that lies beyond all dualities, all concepts, and all distinctions. It is the ultimate reality, the source of all things. And yet, it is not a thing that can be seen or touched. The question that Bankei was faced with was not one that could be answered through intellectual reasoning or conceptual thinking. It was a question that required a deeper level of understanding, a level that could only be reached through direct experience and meditation. As the Vietnamese Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh wrote in his book, The Miracle of Mindfulness, the present moment is the only moment available to us, and it is the door to all moments. If we can learn to live in the present, we will be able to touch the deepest level of our being, and we will be able to see the world with new eyes. The present moment, like the unborn mind, is a mystery that lies beyond all dualities, all concepts, and all distinctions. It is the ultimate reality, the source of all things, and yet it is not a thing that can be seen or touched. The insight that Bankei gained in that moment of silence was not something that could be put into words. It is a direct experience, a revelation that went beyond all language and concepts. He saw that the unborn mind was not something that could be attained, but rather something that was always present, always available. It was the mind that lay beyond all dualities, all concepts, and all distinctions. The mind that was not born, and therefore, it was not subject to the cycle of birth and death. This insight was not just an intellectual understanding, but a deep, visceral experience that transformed Bankei's entire being. He felt a sense of freedom, a sense of release that he had never felt before. He was no longer bound by his doubts and uncertainties, no longer trapped by his own concepts and dualities. As the American philosopher Alan Watts wrote in his book, The Way of Zen, the only way to make sense out of change is to plunge into it, move with it, and join the dance. Bankei's experience was like that, a plunge into the unknown, a movement into the very heart of reality. He had finally found what he had been searching for all along, but it was not what he had expected. The unborn mind was not a thing, not a concept, not even a state of being. It was simply the absence of all things, the silence that lay at the heart of the universe. And in that silence, Bankei found a deep sense of peace and clarity, a sense of freedom and release that he had never known before. The teachings of Bankei Yotaku and other Zen masters like him offer us a profound insight into the nature of reality and the human condition. They show us that the ultimate reality is not something that can be grasped or understood through intellectual concepts, but rather, it is something that can be directly experienced through meditation and contemplation. As the Thai forest master Ajahn Chah wrote in his book, A Still Forest Pool, "The mind is like a pool of water, and the thoughts are like the ripples that disturb the surface. If we can calm the mind, we can see the truth that lies beneath. The truth that lies beneath is the unborn mind, the mind that is not born, and therefore it is not subject to the cycle of birth and death. It is the ultimate reality, the source of all things, and yet it is not a thing that can be seen or touched." The story of Bankei Yotaku and his master Daigu is a reminder that the journey of self-discovery is a lifelong path, one that requires patience, dedication, and perseverance. It is a journey that takes us to the very limits of human understanding and beyond. As we walk this path, we may encounter many challenges and obstacles, but we must not be discouraged, for it is in the very act of walking, of moving forward, that we may catch a glimpse of the ultimate reality, the unborn mind that lies at the heart of the universe. As the Tibetan Buddhist master, Pema Chodron, wrote in her book, Comfortable with Uncertainty, the journey is not about arriving at a destination, but about being present in each moment, with an open and receptive heart. The journey of self-discovery is not about attaining some kind of enlightenment or spiritual state, but rather it is about being present in each moment, with an open and receptive heart. The unborn mind is not just a concept or a state of being, but a living, breathing reality that is always available to us. It is the mind that lies beyond all dualities, all concepts, and all distinctions, the mind that is not born, and therefore it is not subject to the cycle of birth and death. As we go about our daily lives, we can cultivate this mind, this awareness, by being present in each moment, by letting go of our attachments and dualities. We can do this through meditation, through contemplation, and through a deep commitment to the present moment. As the Chinese Taoist master, Laozi, wrote in his book, The Tao Te Ching, the Tao does nothing, and yet nothing is left undone. If kings and lords can keep it, all things will transform spontaneously. The Tao, like the unborn mind, is a mystery that lies beyond all dualities, all concepts, and all distinctions. It is the ultimate reality, the source of all things, and yet it is not a thing that can be seen or touched. In the end, the story of Bankei Yotaku and his master, Daigu, is a reminder that the ultimate reality is not something that can be grasped or understood through intellectual concepts, but rather it is something that can be directly experienced through meditation and contemplation. It is a reminder that the journey of self-discovery is a lifelong path, one that requires patience, dedication, and perseverance. And it is a reminder that the unborn mind is not just a concept or a state of being, but a living, breathing reality that is always available to us. A reality that lies at the heart of the universe, waiting to be discovered. As the Japanese Zen master, Shunryu Suzuki Roshi, wrote in his book, Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind, the most important thing is to find out what is the most important thing. The most important thing is not something that can be found through intellectual concepts or dualities, but rather it is something that can be directly experienced through meditation and contemplation. It is the unborn mind, the mind that lies beyond all dualities, all concepts, and all distinctions, the mind that is not born, and therefore it is not